stick just changed around here, buddy. You're looking at it.
You are now listening to the Outsiders Podcast, the most exciting and hard-hitting show on the net. And now, bringing it hard as always on the Kansas City Chiefs and the NFL, here are your hosts, Clint Schweitzer and Noah Groniger.
Well, if that's not going to make you feel good, I don't know what will, guys. Little Real American Hulk Hogan's theme. Boy, I tell you what, the Chiefs needed some good karma coming off of what was a very tough weekend last weekend. And they got some. Coming off a win over the Carolina Panthers, and we are the Outsiders Podcast. Clint Schweitzer, Noah Groniger, glad to be joining you. Out of respect for what happened, we did not join you last week following the Carolina Panthers game, which was a win.
Yeah, we didn't feel it was appropriate to be talking football X's and O's after such a horrific tragedy had taken place.
It is a tragedy, and you've heard it all week. It's I don't think we can say it any better than anyone has said it. So
and there's not much to say. It's just horrible. I mean, you feel for Cassandra Perkins and her family.
Yeah.
You feel for baby Zoe without her parents. She's going to be getting $1 million from the NFL when it's all said and done, but that doesn't bring back her parents.
Sure, and the players have started a fund as well, which a lot of people wanted to rail on the players for wanting to, play for him or honor him in any way. Which I can see that being something that people would have a problem with, and it's a tough. That's why we didn't want to get into it because it's a tough deal. I can see why the players, they've lost a friend, they've lost a teammate, but at the same time, this is just a tragedy. This is a crime, and it's over with.
You feel for the Belcher family, too. They lost a son. His mom called 911. She made the 911 call trying to get help for Cassandra, trying to get the ambulance there, trying to communicate with Cassandra back and forth, trying to keep her awake and coherent. So,
well, here we are. It's tough. We're trying to come back and talk football and try to, bring some semblance of normalcy back into the situation, and that's what we're going to try to do. We got the Cleveland Browns coming up this weekend, and we're going to be talking about that game in particular, as well as what happened. We have with our guest today, with Sean Salisbury coming back on, and also, of course, Jeris Mcintyre and Corey Mays, who's a former teammate of Belcher's. But all three going to be coming on to talk about the game, to talk about the NFL, and we will certainly have to ask them about this because it's something that affects a lot of people. And so we will be bringing that up. But also getting back into it, talking about some football. The Chiefs did come off of their best performance of the year on Sunday, defeated the Carolina Panthers with a great game from Brady Quinn, who had 200 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, best game of his career, certainly.
I think he had an 83.5 completion percentage, and that's the best in Chiefs history.
Unbelievably.
So, yeah. But still, 200 yards and 2 touchdowns is not the kind of performance. If that's the best we're going to get from Brady Quinn, that's still not the performance of a franchise quarterback like a Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers, Andrew Luck, and RG3.
And that's what I want to bring up, is I think a lot of people, maybe understandably so, their vision has become somewhat clouded after this win, after the performance, after how Romeo Crennel and Scott Pioli handled this situation, which was impeccable.
Yes,
impeccable.
Yes.
The Chiefs, I'll say this, the Chiefs are good at just about everything except for winning. And I don't mean that as a joke right now. They're good at a lot of things except for winning.
Yeah, they can't get it done on the field.
It's a good organization otherwise.
Yeah, they pulled together, they rallied together, they leaned on each other, they got the W. We'll see if that carries over this Sunday to Cleveland. I'm not so sure. Cleveland's got a really tough defense. I believe they're a better football team than the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
Whedon's playing pretty well. I'm not going to say he's as explosive and dynamic as Cam Newton, but he's playing well. He's not turning the ball over, and you've also got Trent Richardson. So
I think Cleveland is an improving football team, and I think that the Chiefs are going to have their hands full in Cleveland this next Sunday. The Chiefs are currently tied with the Jacksonville Jaguars, both at 2-10, looking for that number 1 pick, and so it's going to be interesting to see going forward. What happens with that? The Raiders who by the time this airs will have lost to Denver. It's already
13 to
yeah.
nothing,
As we tape this, it is on its way to being a blowout. It appears. So
of course, I haven't checked in about 2 minutes, so it could be 24 to nothing. So I don't know.
Obviously, this is Denver's division, has been for some time. Actually, it was Denver's division the minute they signed Peyton Manning in my book. But the Raiders have been an abysmal football team for over a month now. So there's teams in there in the hunt for this number one pick. And there's been a lot of talk, a lot of speculation about what the Chiefs are going to do. But I don't want your vision to be clouded, because going forward, this organization is still going to have to start winning some football games at some point. I know that they're having to deal with a tragedy, but you still have to get the right people in place, and I still don't know that the right people are in place, and that's going to have to be explored. It just is, and I don't think you can say, well, Brady Quinn can just be our quarterback from here on out. He can't be. I'm sorry.
I think Scott Pioli and Romeo Crennel handled the situation, almost perfectly, as anyone could, having seen what they saw, having dealt what they dealt with on Saturday morning. But I still, as horrible as that was, as great as they handled it, that has nothing to do, I hate to say it, with winning football games. What they've done, their record as coaches and general manager, it's still a poor record for them in that area, and they have to be replaced at the end of this season, no matter how great, how good of men they are, what kind of leaders they are, and how they dealt with the situation. They have to be replaced because of the business and football side of this.
And I'll tell you what, immediately after the Chiefs beat Carolina, I'm watching Andrew Luck and the Colts play the Detroit Lions, and I watch what Andrew Luck did for them. The next night, Monday Night Football, we're watching what RG3 did to the Giants.
And Russell Wilson against the Chicago Bears defense.
Right, good point.
He led I think a 97-yard drive, and then in overtime an 80-yard drive to Sidney Rice at the last play of the game.
You watch all these guys getting it done for their teams, and guys, it's never been more apparent the Chiefs have to find that guy. They have to find them, and we're going to be talking and doing a lot of speculation over the upcoming months until April as far as the draft goes and who it needs to be, but it's going to have to be somebody, and we're going to talk about that and maybe ask some of our guests what they think right now.
You got Matt Barkley, Aaron Murray, Geno Smith, Tyler Wilson, Tyler Bray. It's really
Zach Deiser, who they say can move back in there. There's a lot of them, man. I tell you what, there's
there is. There's a ton. You just got to
regardless if you don't like
find your guy.
You got to find your guy. And regardless if you don't love this quarterback class, there's a guy out there that can help this football team.
Oh, definitely.
That's all there is to it.
Yeah, these guys aren't scrubs. These guys can play football. They might not be Andrew Luck, RG3, Cam Newton coming out of college with all the hype, but I still believe that these are very good quarterbacks. They can be franchise quarterbacks. They may need a little more time, a little more leeway, and a little more time to develop, but in time, I believe that they can be the guy, and you have to take one. I don't believe in taking Te'o or Jarvis Jones first, or Star Latu Lele.
Good pronunciation.
Yes, the nose tackle out of Utah. I think you need to take the quarterback first, maybe even in the second round with pick number 33, 34, wherever we are there. Also take another quarterback, and maybe Brady Quinn is our third string if he'd like to stay there. Unless he thinks he can get a backup job somewhere, I'd like to see us maybe draft Barkley 1 or Geno Smith, and then get Murray if he's there at 33.
Yeah. I'm with you. I don't think the Chiefs will go there. I don't think they would do that.
They would never do that.
But I think it's a genius move, because you're going to immediately create competition. You could immediately get two quarterbacks that are worthy of starting in the NFL, and you have them competing against each other, and see how that goes. Then you have an asset. If one of them wins the job, you have an asset to maybe trade the other later, or to just have a great backup. But guys, we're going to be talking a lot of draft, because let's face it, as Chiefs fans, we've been thinking about the draft since about week 2 after losing to Buffalo 38-17. That's about whenever it started for me. So.
Yeah, and to be honest, I'd like to think the Chiefs would take the quarterback with their first pick, and then maybe go corner, inside linebacker at the second pick. I'd like the quarterback, but I just don't think they'd do that. I think they'd go inside linebacker, corner. But right now I'm thinking, as bad as this organization is, as much as we're messed up, I think we're going to go Te'o with our number 1 pick, and just try our luck with a second-round quarterback, and hope we hit Drew Brees' lottery. He was picked with the second round by the Chargers. So.
Which is possible. If they go out and they identify that they like a guy, they like, say, we'll keep saying Murray, as you brought up, then maybe that's not the worst idea for this team. I'm still a first-round guy thinking they have to find their guy and take him immediately. But we're going to see how this thing plays out. There's a lot of football left, and a lot of teams playing for things other than draft position right now. And so it's going to be interesting to see go ahead. We're going to go ahead and bring on Sean Salisbury. Always up for a chat with him and see how he feels about some of these goings-on and the Chiefs going forward. And we are joined by Sean Salisbury, former ESPN analyst. And Sean, last time we talked to you, we were talking X's and O's and draft and things like that. But here around Kansas City, all of a sudden that stuff just doesn't seem quite to matter as much. I mean, we don't have to get into every detail about what happened here. But in your opinion, how do you feel about how the Chiefs handled the situation and then on the field how they handled it? Do you think that went well?
There's no doubt they handled it. In the game to go out there and focus after the tragedy. I mean, of course, the day, they get a day to soak it in, and probably this week's been even tougher on them because the lasting effect, you're still shocked at what happened last weekend, and then you go play and you're still in a state of shock, so you kind of, I can speak to how you feel about something like that, because one of my best friends, who if I get married again, he would have been in my wedding party, my line would have been Junior Seau, and I know how devastating that was, and still is. I still suffer every day, and I know what rock bottom's like. Not quite that. I mean, I understand what it's like to have a bottle of booze sitting next to you and wondering what you're going to do the next day when you hit rock bottom. I get it. I've been there, but I've not been to the level that, unfortunately, that Belcher had to go to, and his girlfriend and the baby. I've never. You try to soak it in and find out why and ask all the questions and concussions and depression and pills and drugs and, why we do it, and none of us really ever know what happens because we're not there to talk to them anymore. I do know this, what Brady Quinn said about it is so true, and we have gotten to the point, it may sound so elementary, but it's so true. We've taken human touch out of it. I'm just paraphrasing, and, the communication. Do we really care when somebody's having a good, struggling, or do we just say we hope you're okay because that's just the thing to say? And I just thought he was very eloquent, played a great football game the day after, Bill. So the things that he said were very poignant, and I appreciate him, and I respected him, and I even got a newfound respect for a guy who put it in perspective for a lot of people, but still doesn't take away the pain. Devastating. Let's not forget the fact, and I know we're talking about a football player, but those things go on in real life too. We sensationalize the media because it's a celebrity, a football player. We make it even, we focus more on it. Yet there's a lawyer, or a doctor, or a dentist, or a construction worker, or a housewife, or a secretary, or an assistant, or a flight attendant. They're all a pilot. They're suffering through it too. Wondering if they're going to take their life or have taken their life. So we can't just limit this to athletes, but I know we're talking sports right now. We're talking about the most current situation. So we can't diminish this feeling of why people do this in any walk of life, whether it's involved with concussions and depression and all the brain studies that go on. I know that people go through that, and the chronic pain and concussions. I spoke about this a lot at last year's Super Bowl, about 90 interviews, and I understand, how that affects what's going on, and it's very difficult. And we've seen this happen with Dave Gerson, with Andre Waters, and it happens. And I'm telling you right now, there's more. There's more that people don't know about, and God forbid that it's a murder-suicide again. But this won't be the last time, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but it's not going to be the last time this happens. It's just not. And God forbid it happens anytime soon, or you don't want it to happen, but the suicide, the statistics will say it's going to happen again. Where, with who, when, how severe, I don't know. And why, I don't know, because I'm not a doctor, but it's extremely devastating. I feel for the families of both, the teammates. I thought Scott Pioli and the organization and Romeo Crennel handled it well. How many people, when they knew what was going on, would have walked out and stood there with a gun, wondering, man, what happens if he's mad at me and turns on us? There have been plenty of people who have been afraid to death and wouldn't have left their office. But to stand there and witness what, good gracious, the scars will be forever, and trying to talk him out of this and trying to, comfort him. Forget all the coaching and general manager moves and all that. That's irrelevant. They talk about heroes trying to make it happen, trying to make it happen to where they could stop a man from taking his life. So I applaud them, not applaud the situation, but, you know, I'm humbled by what they did, because a lot of people wouldn't have risked themselves, and that shows me that these are true men of integrity, forget wins and losses. And let's not also diminish the fact that the man murdered his girlfriend and left a baby, a 2-month-old, without mother and father. Now, I'm not trying to be, not having any compassion for it, but regardless of what everybody says, you know, and I bring this up, somebody had suggested, I think somewhere on Facebook or Twitter or something, that maybe we should put his initials on a jersey for the Chiefs players. And I don't think you can do that. I just don't think I don't think you can turn a murderer into a hero. I don't believe in that. It's not to say, and I'm not just speaking Belcher in particular. I don't care if it was my mother or if it was somebody you don't do that. Because what's that saying to the people that don't do that and have their names on jerseys? And that you can't make a hero out of a murderer. You just can't. Now, why he did it, those studies will go on for a long time. And it's hard for people to understand that and hear it, and I'm not being insensitive at all. I went through it a couple months ago with my buddy, but he didn't murder somebody, but he killed himself. So it's sad all the way around. But one thing about it is a baby is without parents. Families are going to suffer and be scarred the rest of their lives. A good man, a good football player, and a guy who obviously had demons is no longer around. The organization is going to suffer, and a young woman who had family and a baby is dead. So there's a lot of different branches that come off this thing, and not the least of which are why it happened, that they'll continue to study. So it's devastating all the way around. Compassionate. It still makes me sick to my stomach, and I didn't even know him or her or the baby. But I just know that, and we can get into the gun control and all that. I have guns. I just think the education of it, that people need to more. You get behind a car, what do you do when you're 15 and a half? You get behind, you go to driver's education, get behind the wheel and learn it before you drive it, correct? Well, it's the same thing with guns, and we can go on, and Jason Whitlock made some good points, and Jason always does. He's opinionated. I think we all have a different feeling. It had nothing to do with politics. It had everything to do with how you feel about it. And the gun doesn't just get up and hop in somebody's hand. But I know when you have access to it, I guess it becomes easier to grab. That being said, there's so many different devastating things, and I know I'm carrying on about this, but it's something that you could talk about it for hours. As a matter of fact, we all need to talk about it because it affects everybody, and especially those families. So prayers and thoughts to them, and I sincerely mean it. And I don't know them, but can't fathom, other than when I lost my friend, what his family went through. And I just, we can't turn murderers into heroes, but we can sure as heck mourn, and his teammates should hug the family and suffer over losing a teammate, because he obviously had some demons and some kind of disease of some kind, whatever that is, that caused him to do this. So nobody wins, and nobody ever will in this situation. That poor little baby is left without a mom and dad.
Yeah, it's a tough situation for everybody, the Chiefs fans, the organization, the families and friends involved. Getting back to Scott Pioli and Romeo Crennel, not that they care about their jobs right now, but with the way that they handle this situation, just being able to go out there and try and talk a man down from taking his own life, and rallying the team and choosing to play the game and honor those of domestic violence. Do you think in any way this changes the business side of it, and perhaps them keeping their jobs because of the way that they handled this situation?
This is going to sound cruel. I don't, and I don't mean it like this, and unfortunately this business, but you have to separate the two. Was what they did far more heroic than winning a game on Sunday? You bet it is. Absolutely. We've all known that Scott Pioli and Romeo Crennel are good men. They just showed more courage than maybe because people have X's and O's and draft picks for free agent signings. We overlook the fact because we are very, what have you done for me lately? Football, sports is such a passion and a hot button for people that we forget that these are human lives, and there's collateral damage when people lose jobs and when people suffer. Romeo Crennel didn't forget how to coach. He just hasn't worked out for him this year. And maybe he's a better assistant. Who knows? Scott Pioli's won 2-time executive of the year. He didn't forget how to draft players. But Tom Brady makes it a little easier for you to look like a hero when you're in New England. So it doesn't take away from the fact that business will go back to business. You had to get up for your job the next day. The Chiefs had to play on Sunday. We're going back to work. Now, does this make it, I mean, is it sad? I don't think Romeo Crennel expects less criticism as a football coach because of what happened. It just proves to me he's a human being who has got a lot more courage than many of the people, and Scott Pioli, many of the people that those two guys got far more courage than a lot of people would have had in that situation. They didn't talk it, they walked it and tried to make a difference, and it didn't work out. But sadly enough, even if they win the next 4, I don't know. That would be 5-0. I don't know if he can save his job. I don't know if Scott Pioli and Romeo are out. Maybe the Hunt family, who's such a class organization, and the way they've raised this organization for so long, maybe compassion works for them. They say, you know what, the guy did a good thing. It may. You know, emotion plays into these things. But you can't, you know, the fans are still going to boo a bad throw. And the people are going to still write columns over the X's and O's. They may give them a little bit more time and maybe not be as harsh, but it's still going to happen on talk radio and TV. And that's the sad part, is you got to go back to life now. You got to go back to understanding. You can't judge. You're not going to judge your coach, I wouldn't think, on, man, he had great courage, and he did. But the fact of the matter is, most people are going to judge, are they 2-14 or are they 6-10? That's what they're going to judge, and whether it's right or wrong, that's what's going to happen. And it's the same. It's no different than I'm sitting here looking at a bunch of my buddies and people across the world in the television and radio, in the radio business, and one radio network just laid off one of my friends in Minnesota. A whole bunch of them just got laid off. I mean, or the person. What about the people at at Hostess? Like 1,500 workers all of a sudden wake up one day without a job in December, and it's late November and December, it's Christmas. They didn't take into account, man alive, things aren't going well, and the union and the strike. Well, guess what? We're going to keep your job so you guys get to buy a present for your kid. They didn't care. Unfortunately, the families care, because someone may be living paycheck to paycheck and aren't going to have a Christmas at their home. So it's real life. I like to apply it to real life. I don't like to give us athletes or entertainers or sports, I don't like to give us a hall pass. We don't deserve a hall pass anymore. My dad did as a construction worker and a blue-collar guy, bringing home paycheck to paycheck, and if he had $200 extra in his pocket, he damn well thought he was wealthy because he could take care of his family with food on the table. And no different than the person that just got laid off work and is devastated because 2 weeks before Christmas they can't get presents and Santa Claus isn't delivering to their kid's house.
Yeah.
That's what we got to step away from and look at. So it's no different. This will be judged as business, I'm sure. Do I have compassion for what they're going through? I would have expected them to win last week. I wouldn't expect them to win this week. Good gracious. They got more guts than I do. They're out there playing their ass off, trying to salvage something, and for athletes and stuff like this is their safe haven. This is their way of getting away from the real world, is going and playing, and that's why they do it. Romeo diving into getting a game plan, and Scott diving into looking at college players and trying to get ready, and what's in the offseason, and NFL players that are going to become free, and Brian getting ready to put an offensive game plan. I mean, it's what you do, and it's what you have to do, and it's what you got to keep doing. So if you're judging, and you're the Hunt family, then you got to judge. Now, if it's their team, they judge it however they want. I would suspect that they're going to judge and applaud and hug those guys if things don't get better and they're 2-14 in any job in the world. If my ratings on my show are down and getting your butt kicked by 20 other stations, guess what? Chance they may make a change. If you're on top, no matter what then there's a chance they may keep you. And that's the unfortunate brutality of this business and most businesses, is that compassion doesn't usually exist for a long period of time in this, and loyalty goes out the window. Compassion for a week or two, back to business. 3 weeks from now, they're going to wonder why they couldn't beat the Denver Broncos or whoever they play. But they're still going to say, man, what a bummer what happened, and it's sad. And people will never forget what happened on that day at Arrowhead, and with that young lady and with that poor baby, and with Javon. But I tell you right now that most businesses don't take that into account. There's women who get pregnant a week before Christmas, and they got their job, they're relying on the benefits, and doggone the job cuts, it lays them off because they need to save $50 an hour or $27 an hour or a $30,000 salary, and they don't care. So we'll see the compassion that comes into it, but I think you get judged on business as opposed to what happened. Although what happened is far more important than a football game. It's just hard to separate the two, because they're both emotional situations, and they're both other people's jobs are at hand, and somebody's life was lost. 2 lives.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting heading forward as the Chiefs try to pick up the pieces, and now we'll go play a road game at Cleveland, who is dealing with a suicide in their organization as well this past weekend, unbelievably enough. And talking about the Cleveland Browns in general, this is a team I think playing really well right now. They've won a couple games straight. Let's talk about the Browns going into play this game and your thoughts on Brandon Weeden and just how the Browns are playing and how you see this game playing out.
The Browns are a dangerous team, and thought for their organization as well. And Mike Holmgren just left the organization, and I mean they're in a little bit of chaos, wondering if will their head coach Pat keep the job when the season's over. But I'll tell you what, they've been in almost every game this year, and they should have beat the Cowboys. There's some games they should have won that they were in that just couldn't quite close out. It's a good football team. I mean, the record doesn't show good, but I'll tell you what, if you're showing up to think you're playing a bye week, you're going to get beat. They run it, they're physical, and they're only a couple players away from, I'm telling you, from making a difference. They're about where the Cincinnati Bengals were a couple years ago before they started to get better, and they're close. They got a full-grown man as a running back. They need another playmaker and wide receiver. Good offensive line, a quarterback who I like. People give him flack because he's older, but that just tells me he's more mature. And while he's not getting the credit of the other guys, he's a hell of a football player, and I think he's going to be okay. He's not a guy that can carry your franchise, but if you give him some good players, he's a guy that can start in the league for quite a while. So he's got fresh legs, but an experienced mind. So I think he's a good person to have, and they do too, or they wouldn't have started him at the beginning of the year. What a great rookie class we have as quarterbacks, and the difference all five of those guys, Wilson, Luck, RG3, Tannehill, and Weeden are making. So Chiefs are going to have to bring it, but they're going to have to come with a good game plan. They're going to have to step aside from the unfortunate tragedy for 60 minutes and play their guts out. And this, this is an underrated game because you got two teams that nobody care about right now, football-wise. The jobs are on the line for them, and they really, Kansas City get on a roll. Can you imagine if they play well and end up going 5 in a row? Man, what a great feeling it is into the offseason. So right now, while there's no playoffs, you're trying to, number one, disrupt the playoff picture. Number two, on both organizations, test and evaluate who's quitting on me and who isn't. It's easy to do to have your engine started as a player when you got to go in the playoffs and your golf club's in the trunk. Now can't wait for the last 4 weeks to get over. And it's easy to do, although you shouldn't do it. And then they're looking to build momentum in the offseason. And that's what this is. You don't want to go in the offseason losing 4 in a row if you're the Chiefs and having a 2-win season, and all of a sudden looking around you're saying, God, then the effects of what happened set in, that season sets in. Heck, it's like it's raining on you every day and you can't get a ray of sunshine. And so Cleveland, while they've been in a lot of games, the bottom line is we don't have a category that says ugly or pretty loss or ugly win. It's just wins and losses and a tie, if there's a tie in your schedule. But Cleveland's been in them. Kansas City showed flashes. That's just it. I look at the Chiefs and they got the pieces are pretty good. Eric Berry, Johnson, Tom Ali. They can block. They got a Jamal Charles. They got some good players. The problem is that the sum isn't real good because they're not putting it all together. But whatever emotion they dragged out of it and how difficult it was to get through this practice week, they're going to have their hands full going to Cleveland. And then there's a sidebar of Joe Thomas and Peyton Hillis, and Thomas won't let it go, calling him toxic. Enough. And just go play. And I'm sure Peyton Hillis has got a bone to pick, and he might get a few extra carries in that red zone. And I'm quite sure that the Cleveland Browns want to pound Kansas City because they're not going to. You think they're going to feel sorry for Kansas City? Hell no, because their jobs are on the line. They're not going to, while they're compassionate for what went on, they're not going to feel sorry for the Chiefs. They don't feel sorry for them. When the game kicks on, all bets are off, my friend. I'm here to win. When it's over, I'll hug you at the middle of the field and tell you I love you, and I hope that you're getting over your teammates' loss and the family. But while it's on, it's on. And that's the way football is, and it's the combination of great passion and compassion, but great caveman attitude of, I got 60 minutes to lay it all on the ground, and I'll be emotional before and after. But during the game, my emotion is simply focused on I'm going to beat the guy's ass across from me. And so that's what it is. Cleveland is no joke. They're not a pushover. They're not great, but they're getting better. And Kansas City should be better with the talent they have in certain positions. They got a Pro Bowler type player at a lot of positions. Bo at wide receiver, Charles at running back, Holly up front. They've got some. Eric Berry as a safety. They've got some talent. The question is, when does that talent come together? And it just goes to show you what 1 or 2 players, RG3 and Alfred Morris, Andrew Luck in there, Peyton Manning going to Denver, 1 or 2 players. The difference between number 1 and number 32 is about 3 or 4 players and about 6 or 8 plays a game. And so the Chiefs in both Cleveland and the Chiefs need a couple more pieces and a little bit of confidence to roll through this. Nobody expected the Chiefs to be sitting on 2 wins in December. I promise you. There was a lot of prognosticators that had them winning the division when the season started, and Matt Castle having a great season, and plus, Dexter and Charles having a monster year, and boy, they were going to compete with 10 or 11 wins. Well, that's not the case. Now they have supply, and they got to disrupt the playoff picture if they want to.
Can you talk about Brady Quinn and his impressive performance last week against the Panthers, and if you see any possibility, realistic possibility, that he could be the Chiefs starter in 2013?
Well, of course it's realistic. I mean, he showed a great maturity on and off the field last week. It's a former first-round draft pick, and they get chances. First-round draft picks are always going to get a chance. But for Brady, it doesn't mean that if he's not the starter in Kansas City, can't he go and have a great second half of his career and play great? Of course you can have a rejuvenation. He played well. Whatever it was, let's take aside the tragedy that happened. But whatever it was that focused Brady Quinn into being that guy last weekend, he needs to channel that. Because he obviously was a first-round pick. Somebody along the line thought he could play, but Cleveland, they got rid of him. Denver, they got rid of him. Kansas City's here. And until last week, Kansas City didn't know who they, between me, you, and doggone third-string quarterback in Europe, they didn't know who they wanted to play quarterback. Well, Brady got a chance, and he played well. The key is he's got to sustain it. If he plays well the next 4 weeks, those 3-1, or counting last week, those 4-1, puts up some numbers where we start to see flashes of a guy who the light switch went on. Man, well, maybe. But regardless, I don't care if he goes for 300 yards in the last 4 games and they win all 4. They're drafting a quarterback or signing one in the trade. They're going to go get one. Because some people will say, well, he's had enough time. I'm always for giving a guy a chance. I don't believe the starting quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs is on the roster. Just me. Love him. Matt's a USC guy. Love him. I don't believe you guys have your starting quarterback on the roster in Kansas City right now for 2013. But it'll go a long way, not only with the Chiefs, but with Brady Quinn, whether he's a backup for the next 15 years, or whether he's a starter and a backup or does both. It'll go a long way with the Chiefs organization and other organizations evaluating him in December play, in some maybe inclement weather in certain places, and how he handles what's been people would say a bust of a career because he was a first-round pick, whether that's fair or not. But I love the fact that he's being resilient and keep on, because you never know. Just when you're about to say, I've had enough, there's about the time when the break may be around the corner, and maybe the way he played last week was the over-the-top confidence that he had at Notre Dame to get him there. We're going to find out, because I think this is going to go a long way into solidifying him as an NFL quarterback and a chance that he'll get a chance, or being a journeyman for the rest of his career and playing on 8 different teams, and that's okay too. You're picking up a paycheck and getting a chance. But confidence is huge at that position. A lot of times far more important than physical ability.
I know we talked about the draft last time, but I kind of want to get back into it a little here. The Chiefs haven't drafted a first-round quarterback since Todd Blackledge in 1983. And there's a lot of talk going around that maybe the Chiefs would take a quarterback in the second round and maybe get Mcintyre or Jarvis Jones with the first-round pick. Do you think it's time for the Chiefs to stop kind of playing it cute and taking chances and just find their guy and draft him with the first pick that they have? Matt Ryan was not highly thought of, and he's turned out fantastic, and people think that this draft class quarterbacks aren't that great. What do you think the Chiefs need to do?
Well, if it was me, and I'm a gentleman, first of all and foremost, if I don't care what position, it's going to make the biggest impact the fastest on my organization. A couple of years ago, they felt Eric Berry be that guy. I get it. They felt Jamal Charles was that guy. I get it. They felt Tom Hawley was that guy. And, you're talking about 3 guys that got Pro Bowl potential and can play. Okay? I personally go after, when I don't say best available to other people, I go what's going to make the impact on my damn team. When all those coaches are sitting around saying, who do we need to make an impact now that's going to get us to the playoffs, that's going to do what Luck did or what DeMarcus Ware does for the Cal. I don't care what position. To me, there's only 3 positions that you have to me, when you're looking, unless your name's Calvin Johnson as a wide receiver, or your name's Adrian Peterson. And Adrian Peterson wasn't even the first player drafted. Unless you're a pass rusher that is a disruptor. Unless you're, at times, a left tackle who can lock down a position for 15 years. At sometimes and unless you're a quarterback, that's a franchise quarterback, those three positions, now I know statistically there may be others, you're not drafting the first pick of the draft if the Chiefs have that at the end of this season. To me, if you're going to draft Mcintyre with the first pick of the draft, as good as the kid is he a franchise guy that's going to turn your franchise? I don't know this. I think he's a hell of a player. He's not worthy of the first pick for me. Great player, great kid, no better example of what a Heisman Trophy and a college athlete's supposed to be. Matter of fact, he's not even the best defense. He's going to win. He's going to be voted the best defense player. But in NFL scouts' eyes, Jarvis Jones and Davian Clowney the pass rusher from South Carolina are both better pro prospects right now, in my mind. That doesn't mean that this kid's not going to be a special player. But to me, here's why I say it, the closer you are to the line of scrimmage, the more impact in the game you have. People think that unless it's Adrian Peterson, you can find a running back in the third round, as well witnessed by what Alfred Morris does, the Doug Martin does. You can find that guy. They also, you want corners, but are you willing to draft a corner, Mo Claiborne, or those guys, or Deion Sanders with the first pick of the draft? Unless even Darrell Reeves, they weren't the first pick of the draft. That's the best we got. Safeties, as good as Polamalu is, and Ronnie Lott, and all those guys, Rod Woodson, they weren't the first picks of the draft. The further away you move from the line of scrimmage, the less, to me, value. Again, when I say value, they all have value, but the less important it is to put your franchise on hold for that pick. Pass rusher, difference maker. Look around what J.J. Watt and those guys are doing for their teams. Take a look at, and still no first pick of the draft, Bruce Smith, and you'll get one once in a while. Left tackle, if you can protect your quarterback and your name's Anthony Munoz for 15 years, well, hell, draft him. Or Khalil, the third pick for Minnesota last year. But more often than not, if there's a franchise quarterback, you've got to grab him now. The key is there a franchise quarterback? Is Matt Barkley, who I thought had an off season, threw too many interceptions, and I think that he was the surefire, no doubt, number one pick of the draft going into the season. Now Matt Barkley, I'm not even sure people don't think Aaron Murray's better than him right now. And there will be that debate from Georgia. He's consistent, turns the ball over less than Matt does. Well, are you looking for spectacular, explosive? Or are you looking for the guy who's productive? And I don't think either one are worthy of the first pick of the draft. That being said, they may be worthy of being the first pick of the draft for the Chiefs, because that's a bad position for them. There's 5 or 6 teams that are in the same situation. But when you look at it like that, then you say, okay, can we get a second round? Are we going to be lucky enough to find Colin Kaepernick or Andy Dalton or Russell Wilson? Now those guys make a great case to say, screw it, let's try to get some guy like a quarterback in the third round. But it is not a strong quarterback class. The key is if you don't draft them first, they may have a run between number 12 and number 10 and 20 of 3 quarterbacks: Smith, Barkley, Murray, and then what? Now what? You could probably get the Tennessee's quarterback in round 3. Bray. Get him Bray in round 2 or 3. Maybe he's the steal, but is he a franchise guy? You're not going to win unless you got 2 things: the Baltimore Ravens 2000 defense and a quarterback who's efficient, or you got a quarterback who's a playmaker. Look around you. The aberration is when somebody wins the Super Bowl without a great quarterback.
Yeah.
The substance of it all, for the most part, is if you don't have a quarterback that's a playmaker and can play under pressure, you ain't winning. Look at all the Super Bowls: Warner, Elway, Montana, Young, Brady, Manning. Look at the plays they've made under duress in Super Bowls. Now go find me a team: Brad Johnson and Trent Dilfer.
Yeah.
Brad Johnson and Trent Dilfer. But now look at both of their defenses they had in the years they won a Super Bowl.
Top 10 in NFL history.
So you've got to have a quarterback. So for me, if you're not going to get it, you better go look on free agency for a trade. Maybe Seattle will let you have Matt Flynn, and you think he's a guy that everybody thought was going to be the guy, lost out to Russell Wilson. Is he a franchise? I don't believe there's an oh my gosh, no doubt, no brainer Andrew Luck in the draft. But Kansas City has to do what's best for them and what gives them the best chance to win. That's why these next 4 weeks are also important, to find out what the quarterback situation is. But there's going to be some guys you can get. Alex Smith's going to be available when this season's over. Is he a franchise guy? Maybe, maybe not. Was drafted like one. So, to me, if it's me, I got to look long and hard. If the quarterback is a franchise guy, you have to draft him. Because without him, I don't care if they draft DeMarcus Ware, J.J. Watt, Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, me, and you. They're not winning a Super Bowl unless they got a quarterback who can play when it matters. Period.
Well, guys, that's real talk. Sean, cannot thank you enough for being on with us again. Just absolutely, we appreciate your kind words to you. I don't think I heard anyone say it any better this week, and we look forward to catching up to you. Please don't be a stranger, because we love hearing from you. Guys, follow Sean, Sean Unfiltered on Twitter. Sean, thanks so much, man. Take her easy, and please don't be a stranger, my man.
Hey, let's do it again next week, either Thursday or Friday, after we see what the Chiefs do and see how they're dealing with this. And to the fans and families in Kansas City, God bless you. It's difficult times, and only those of us from outsiders can't even imagine what the organization's going through. So prayers, and thank you for the kind compliment, and always honored to come on your show.
Well, we appreciate it. We'll catch up with you next week. Can't wait for that. Sean, thanks a lot, and we'll catch up with you soon, my man.
Appreciate it, buddy. Thank you.
All right, you're the best, Sean. Take care.
That's Sean Salisbury joining us for the second straight week, and I mean, I'm just riveted. Sean is, to me, I'm sorry, he's the best in the business.
Yeah,
he's the
by
best.
far. I mean, I've listened to 810, 610. I listen to the guys on ESPN. Sean Salisbury, without a shadow of a doubt, is the best. He's real as it gets. He's a wealth of knowledge. He's got it all down. He's the best. That's all I know.
I can't tell you how lucky I feel that the guy, thinks enough of us to come on our show to talk to our listeners. It just means the world. And Sean, sharing personal stories about himself and demons that can creep up into anybody. And I just feel really, really blessed that Sean thinks enough of us to join us and talk football with us once a week. And
yeah, wished prayers and well wishes to everybody in Kansas City going through this tough time. Everyone that this has struck down, he just wishes them well and that they'll get through this somehow.
Great stuff. Can't thank him enough. And we're going to quickly move right into our next guest, Jeris Mcintyre, ex-Chief, ex-Auburn Tiger, and we're going to go ahead and bring him on. And we've got Jeris Mcintyre. We are talking Chiefs and Browns. And Jeris, we just talked to Corey Mays, a former teammate of Javon Belcher's, and that's where we'll start with you as well. I mean, it's really hard to talk football, which is what we're trying to do right now when a tragedy like this strikes, and it is a tragedy for the victim, Cassie Perkins, who Javon's life he took. What are your thoughts on this situation right now, and do you believe that Kansas City handled it well in like a class organization?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a very, very unfortunate situation. Very sad. I was in shock. Being a former Kansas City Chief player, and just knowing, the brotherhood that we had, we were there. And I just couldn't imagine if anything were to happen like that. Yeah, it's just very crazy, and I think they definitely handled it the way they should have. They went out and played a hell of a game. Beat Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers at home. Played very inspiring, and they came out victorious. Under the circumstances, I couldn't imagine, Romeo focusing on the game, the players focusing on the game. I mean, just with that in their mind and happening, about 24 hours, before it would have just been crazy. And I couldn't imagine it, but they went out and were strong and won the game and played hard, and that shows the class organization of the Kansas City Chiefs run.
Yeah, it's unfathomable to think about what Scott Pioli and Romeo Crennel saw there Saturday morning, and they're both great men, great leaders, and they led this organization and through a really tough time. Do you think that maybe Clark Hunt is maybe rethinking this, and how they handled the situation might have saved their jobs?
Oh, man. You're saying Romeo's job?
Romeo and Scott Pioli's.
It's hard to say. I think right now, I'm not sure anybody's thinking about, jobs. I'm sure going, before this all happened, Romeo probably had to think that he may have been on his way out with their record being what it is, and Pioli with with him being the decision maker and the team being as bad as they are this year. I'm sure in their minds, they probably had an idea, or Hunt, Mr. Hunt may have even told them already before this all happened. But with what they saw and how they went out and played the game and won under the circumstances, I think personally, with Mr. Hunt's decision, it would be tough to make any kind of decision right now or in a couple weeks, knowing what they saw, knowing what happened in the organization. But it is a business, and the record speaks for itself. In the last couple of years, it speaks for itself. So at the end of the day, Mr. has to do what's best for the organization, but at the same time, dealing with it, and Romeo's dealing with it, and purely dealing with it the way that they did, may show that they have brighter days and stuff can get turned around.
How do you see this Browns game going? They've been playing really well lately with beating the San Diego Chargers and the Oakland Raiders. Do you think the Chiefs can give them a game, or is the Browns defense just too tough?
I mean, I always think, with the NFL, with this happening, this could be, a turning point. I mean, they can go out, play Inspire, not turn the ball over, and be able to play the way, they should be able to play the way they did this past weekend. And I think if they do that, don't turn the ball over, play inspiring defense, play hard, and show some kind of passion and spark, I think they'll be in the game. I don't want to say when. They'll definitely be in the game. I know, Brandon Weeden's playing pretty good now for Cleveland, for the Browns. So, it'd be a tough task for them, but I think they can win. I definitely do think they can win.
I want to talk to you about the subject of quarterbacks for a minute. We've seen unbelievable things this year from rookies: Andrew Luck, Robert Griffin III. It's Brandon Weeden, who's 28 years old, but a rookie. And the Chiefs are obviously at a point where it's time to go quarterback. They've painted themselves into this corner, haven't taken one for 30 years. We've well documented that. You watch a lot of college football. You're an SEC guy. You played at Auburn. What have you seen this year from the crop of quarterbacks, and what do you think the Chiefs are going to try to do with this first pick? There'll be probably either 1 or 2 overall. So do you think it will definitely be quarterback, and which one stands out to you right now?
Man, with the Chiefs' luck, with their luck right now, this would be the year that they're the first overall pick. I mean, man, I was looking at Geno Smith earlier in the year. He looked good, but he fell off. Matt Barkley, I don't know how elite he is. I mean, quite honestly, to me, he reminds me of Brady Quinn in college, maybe a little better. But I don't know if you pick him first overall. I'm trying to even think who else is out there. I mean, I know they were talking Matt Barkley, Geno Smith,
Aaron Murray, Tyler Wilson. Aaron Murray, Tyler Wilson, Tyler Bray.
Aaron Murray, Tyler Wilson. See, to me personally, I don't think any of those guys are an RG3 or Andrew Luck. To me, I mean, I don't even know if they're Brandon Weeden, quite honestly. I mean, maybe Matt Barkley may be a Brandon Weeden kind of guy, maybe a little better. But I mean, to me, but to be first overall, I'm looking for Cam Newton, RG3,
sure.
Andrew Luck. So it's tough, and I don't know. We all want them to go quarterback, but at the end of the day, if we draft Matt Barkley and he's similar to a Matt Castle or a Brady Quinn or anybody else, are we going to be? Is that the right decision? I don't know. I mean, to me, Aaron Murray is like a Brody Cole. So do we pick Aaron Murray that high to get a quarterback similar to Brody Cole? I don't know, and that's a tough decision that, like I said, that the owner and the general manager have to make. Is there a quarterback that we could say for the next 10 years he's going to play, or even his rookie years, he's going to come in and be able to lead this team? He's going to be able to throw Dwayne Baldwin and everybody else. Is he going to be able to be successful the way RG3 came in, the way Cam came in, the way Andrew Luck is doing? I mean, even a Russell Wilson. Are they going to be able to do that? But I'm sure there's somebody in the draft who will be able to come in and be able to make plays as a rookie. I would say the safest bet is Matt Barkley. I mean, if you're going to go to quarterback, go with Matt Barkley, who's been in the pro-style offense and who's put up numbers. I just don't know if he is going to be that super elite quarterback that you look for number 1 overall.
Well, that could definitely hamstring the Chiefs if they can't get that franchise guy. Might have to bring your old teammate and one of our favorites. Might just have to bring Trent Green back, because I swear that guy looks like he could still play. And
yeah. I mean, he's definitely amazing. I mean, when I got there, and I played with Jason Campbell in Auburn, but when I saw the way Trent orchestrated an offense, I was just kind of like, damn, like, why don't they talk about this guy like all the time? Like, why don't they talk about him the way they talk about the other superstar quarterbacks? Because to me, I mean, in his prime and when I was there, from 04, 05, 06, around those times. Like he was one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. And he still looks young, and I'm sure he can still go out there if the line's blocking and make some plays.
That would be the key, of course. But well, before we let you go, Jeris, I got to ask you about about Cam Newton. He came in here to Arrowhead. He had another good game. They lost the game, of course, versus the Chiefs this past Sunday. But Cam, he'd had a down year here in his quote-unquote sophomore season. Had a great rookie year. What do you think went wrong for Cam here in the first half of the season, and what do you think he's been able to do to kind of get it turned around, and he looks kind of like that Superman guy again that we saw last year?
I think it's tough. I think a lot of it had to do with we expected so much. He did so many great things as a rookie, and he made a lot of mistakes. He threw some interceptions, and this year we expected him to be the best quarterback in the NFL. A top 2 or 3 quarterback in the NFL. If he would have improved from last year, he improved some things, but he's having a similar season to when he had last year as far as when you look at the numbers. But I think we expected so much more from him his second year that it doesn't really look like he has progressed that much. But he did so good his rookie year that right now it looks like he's playing average, but in reality he's playing about the same when you look at the numbers. His team is losing, and I think at the end of the day it's about wins and losses. Once he leads his team into the playoffs or in the playoff hunt, then we can talk more about Cam being that kind of player. But as long as he's losing, everybody's going to respect him, but they're not going to give him the love that he deserves until his team is a 6-6 or an 8-8 or even a 9-7 and pushing for a wild card. As long as you're losing, they're not going to respect you, and they're not going to think you're doing everything you need to do to be the best player you could be. And that's going to be, it's going to be important for him as he moves forward, because he could throw for 4,000 yards, but if he loses, if he's 3-13 or 6-10, they're not going to put him in the category with the Drew Brees and the Aaron Rodgers and the Peyton Mannings.
Getting back to the Chiefs draft, if you're saying you don't like any of these quarterbacks too much, would you take maybe a Mcintyre or a Jarvis Jones from Georgia and maybe go quarterback in the second round with your high pick in the second round?
You know what? That would be a great philosophy. With having DJ and Garrett Johnson, you throw Mcintyre next to him. You should be okay in the middle. So and I think he's a safe pick as well. He's one of those Ray Lewis kind of inspirational players. Jarvis Jones, he's a hell of a player off the edge. It just seems like we draft, in that front 7 every year in the top 5. So it's tough, but Mcintyre will definitely be a safe pick, and I think he'll be a star in the NFL. And I think you're going to get a star in him rather than the quarterback. So I definitely would probably wait till early second, or go get a Michael Vick, which would probably going to be out of Philly. Go get a Michael Vick. It probably won't be that much, and have him to try to kind of store it up the next couple years, and then draft a rookie early in the second round to be his heir apparent. That's what I would do.
It'll be really interesting to see. The Chiefs will definitely be picking probably first or second, so they will have all the opportunity in the world to try to make this team better. So we'll see going into next year. But Jeris, cannot thank you enough for your time today. You've been amazing. Your insight is impeccable, if you ask me. So we appreciate you being on today, and we will definitely catch up again soon, my man.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
All right, take care.
All right, thanks a lot, Jeris. Good stuff. And we're going to immediately go right into our next guest, which is Corey Mays, ex-Chief. He was a teammate of Javon Belcher's, and
we'll definitely get his feelings and thoughts on the tragedy that happened Saturday, and also his feelings on the Chiefs as a team.
Okay, and we're talking Chiefs-Browns right now with former Chief Corey Mays. Corey, right now in Kansas City, of course, it's really hard to talk about X's and O's of a football game when we're coming off the tragedy from last year. Your former teammate, Javon Belcher, and a very unfortunate incident. Of course, the victim, Cassie Perkins. We're all our hearts are really hung low this week. Just give us your thoughts on this situation and how Kansas City has handled it, and how you've handled it personally, being a former teammate.
It was pretty devastating learning the news, learning everything that kind of happened, and it's been a tough week for me and a lot of teammates, and obviously family members. This is, it's hard to put it into words because it's something you would never, ever imagine happening. And for those guys to go out and play and win a game, it as a player, it serves as somewhat of a distraction during a time of crisis. But for them to go out and win a game, I know it's huge for the team itself and huge for the city because this is going to be a long healing process.
Well, we saw a lot out of someone you know really well, which is Brady Quinn, who started this game. He became the AFC Offensive Player of the Week with his performance, 2 touchdowns, and he was, I don't know that I've ever heard a player or an athlete more eloquent in the way he spoke after the game. Just talk about his performance and, just what these guys must be thinking going out there and playing after something like this happens.
I think when tragedy strikes like that, you're probably at the most focused they've been all season because you realize you don't have anything to lose, but you realize that you're playing to kind of distract yourself, and I'm sure a lot of guys are playing for the memory of Javon and the family tragedy. Is somewhat emotional. It's not somewhat emotional, but it is emotional for me because I knew him so well and his girlfriend. So I know my heart goes out to the family.
It's a very tough situation, and it's hard to deal with actual football-related matters when something like this happens. But the Chiefs, coming off that win, are now going to play Cleveland. Romeo Crennel's former team, Brady Quinn's former team. The Browns are really playing well right now. Do you think something like this could serve as a catalyst for the Chiefs to maybe try to finish the season strong? And how do you feel about going to play Cleveland, who's playing really good football right now?
The Chiefs better be ready to play because it's not a tragedy for everyone else necessarily, but that hangover, they better be ready to go play because Cleveland, they just want to win games. It's going to be business first. And Cleveland is starting to shape up and really put together some games. I know they wish they had just begun to finish them a lot better, especially earlier in the season. But the Chiefs better be ready.
With Romeo Crennel and Scott Pioli having seen what they saw on Saturday and how they handled it like champs. Probably the best work they've done all season, and great leaders and great men. Do you think in any way that changes the feelings of them losing their jobs and maybe they'll be retained for how they handled the situation?
You know what? In this type of situation, quite honestly, I know they're probably thinking, who cares about a job? You're watching someone lose their life, and it's all in perspective. X's and O's and all those things don't really matter, and your job doesn't really matter. When you're watching someone lose their life as well as others have lost their lives, plus a child involved who grow up not knowing their parents. So to them, I'm pretty sure, they're just dealing more with the tragedy of the situation. And they're not really thinking of their job, so to speak. And of course, they're going to do their jobs because they're professionals. But I'm pretty sure that's not in the forefront of their minds right now.
Seeing what we've seen out of Brady Quinn since he has taken over for Matt Castle, do you feel like that Brady should at some point become a starting quarterback in this league, maybe be given another shot here in Kansas City? Or I know you're biased. And I love Brady myself, but do you think Brady is a starting quarterback in this league, or do you think that maybe he is what he is, and it may be a backup role from him on out?
I definitely believe Brady Quinn can be a starting quarterback in this league. It depends on who you are as a quarterback. You just need a system that fits you, and that's basically every player in the NFL. You see a lot of free agents, they sign with a new team after having a monster couple of seasons, and people say, well, what happened to them? Every system is not for everybody. So when you do find a system that you do fit in, you have to make sure you exploit it. And I definitely believe Brady Quinn can be a starter in this league.
All right, Corey, let's try to channel your inner Mel Kiper here. And which quarterback do you like for next year's draft?
Oh, man. Actually, I'm not even sure exactly all the quarterbacks that are coming out for next year. I know for USC, Matt Barkley is with him being hurt, I don't know how much that hurts his chances right now, but I would be thinking Matt Barkley.
Yeah, there's going to be definitely a line for Matt Barkley, Geno Smith, some of these other guys, Aaron Murray, maybe from Georgia, but we're going to definitely see where that takes us. But, going into this last half of the season, I mean, just give us your thoughts on the NFL in general, and what do you see? I mean, we've got Peyton Manning just absolutely terrorizing. They've won, 6 straight games there. I mean, do you feel like one of these teams with these gaudy records, the Texans, Patriots, Broncos, and on the other side, Falcons, one of those type teams, or do you think maybe a wild card team could sneak up this year and win the Super Bowl, or who do you like right now, basically?
You know what? I do like Denver. I don't like the Texans. Their defense to me is kind of spotty at times. Of course, you love the Patriots. It's hard to say exactly who's going to sneak in because teams have to be consistent. Atlanta, they're looking good, but obviously they've had trouble in the playoffs. I'm thinking, the Patriots can sneak right back into the forefront again, and San Francisco. So I think it might be Patriots or San Francisco in the Super Bowl.
Since you are picking San Francisco, I wanted to get your quick thoughts on Colin Kaepernick versus Alex Smith and that situation that's going on in San Francisco.
It's a sticky situation. I know Alex Smith has to be very frustrated by that. But, again, it's a business, so whoever gives the best chance, at scoring points and creating excitement and hype, that's kind of sometimes the downfall. You got to go with it. So I just hope, for their sake, Colin can continue to provide the excitement and continue to provide an offense for them.
Well, Corey,
I know that's extremely frustrating.
Absolutely. Backup quarterback situations in the NFL have never been easy, and they probably never will be. So it'll be interesting to see where they go from here. Corey, I can't thank you enough for joining us today, talking about this tough situation. I know it's been tough on you and a lot of your former and current Chiefs, and we just can't thank you enough for being on today, and we look forward to catching up with you here as the playoffs start unfolding, and we'll definitely look forward to previewing again the Notre Dame Fighting Irish and Alabama in the national title game. We really appreciate it, my man.
Appreciate it. Appreciate you guys having me on. We can talk a little football.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot. Take care.
All right, I want to thank all of our guests for being on with us. Sean Salisbury, Jeris Mcintyre, Corey Mays, just eloquent thoughts, and I can't think of enough for being on. And tough spot sometimes to talk about things like what happened this past week, and I think they all knocked it out of the park, and I'm just glad they were able to come on with us.
Yeah, our prayers go out to Corey Mays. I mean, he sounds like he's taking it tough.
Yeah.
Former teammate, good friend of his. Just horrible what happened. So.
Well, and good input too. I think as far as the Kansas City Chiefs go, and it's hard. We're talking about breaking down the X's and O's of a game, a 2-10 Chiefs team taking on a 4-8 Browns team. And it's certainly, not the most interesting of things because right now we as Chiefs fans wish we were talking about this game in a playoff appearance. It's not the case. And going forward, of course, we talked to all our guests. We talked about it in our intro about the NFL draft and talking quarterbacks with the guys tonight. But interestingly, you talk about Mcintyre. We talked about other positions. The Chiefs are going to wind up, depending on what happens in free agency, there could be some issues on our offensive line, at receiver, certainly at corner, and do one of these needs wind up overriding our need for a quarterback or some of our other issues is the question.
Well, we definitely have a spot at inside linebacker. We've always wanted to kind of improve that. We'd have a great linebacking core if we could get Te'o in there with Derek Johnson, Justin Houston, Tom Bahali. Wide receiver if we let Bo go, and maybe even if we don't, we're going to need an upgrade there. We've let Steve Preston just kind of sit on the bench and rot, and so I don't know if he'll be back. McCluster, I don't know where he really fits in. I think he's more of a fourth wide. I don't really see him as a big contributor to this offense. Jonathan Baldwin needs to get more consistent. Cornerback, we definitely
Would we go corner in the first? I mean, like Milliner from Alabama.
I don't think so. Not that high. Not as. I mean, if we're drafting one or two, I don't see a corner worth taking there. And people say, well, I don't see a quarterback we're taking there either. But the position value is just ridiculous. Quarterback is by far the highest value. So
right now,
that
absolutely
raises that up. So
don't need that outside pass rusher right now. I think that we're good there.
I'd love Jarvis Jones, but I mean, where do you put him?
Right.
I mean, who do you take out? I mean, he'd just be in the rotation with Houston and Hali.
We don't know what we're going to be running. We may be running a 4-3 next year, which could change some of our draft needs too. So that's going to be one thing to watch personnel-wise. We may be switching back to a 4-3 and looking at Hali and Houston with their hands down in the dirt and then need an outside linebacker. So it's impossible. Mingo from LSU, like that guy, he's going to be a stand-up guy probably in a 3-4. But what do you do with him in a 4-3? We'll have to see where we go. We don't know what our staff is going to be at the time or what they're going to want to do. So it's up in the air.
Depending on what coach we get, it could be a 4-3. That means we sign Dorsey. Most likely put him in his natural position as a 4-3 defensive tackle, keep Dontari Poe. Probably looking to get rid of Tyson Jackson if we switch to a 4-3, looking for Tyson Jackson to restructure his contract if we stay in a 3-4 because he's had a pretty solid year. He's due to make about $14 million next year, and there's absolutely no way anyone who's sane would pay him that short of money. I think he's a good quality starter for us if we can get him to restructure his contract, maybe $7 million a year or something like that. He's never going to live up to his top 5 pick billing, but I think he's a quality starter. People need to kind of get off his back a little bit, saying he's horrible. He's not. He's a good starter. He's just
not a superstar.
Yeah, not a superstar like we were hoping he'd be. So
well, and right now, depending on what happens with Brandon Albert, tackle may become a position of need. It's a good thing that we took Stevenson and Allen last year.
Yes,
because
exactly.
Those guys are going to have to fit in. But depth-wise, this is a year. There's a couple of A&M offensive tackles, Matthews and Joe Kell, guys that I like a lot. But
if we like
it's not happening. I mean,
if we like Stevenson, there's no way we're going to take one in the first round just for depth. When we have other positions that we need starters, even people are talking about safety. Kendrick Lewis hasn't had the strongest year. He's been injured a lot. Eric Berry's struggled. He's starting to come on midway through the season, and later now he's playing a little bit better. We look for that to get better a year removed from the ACL injury next year. And same with Charles. Moiaki's been coming on. It's been nice to see that. Getting back to the draft, I don't know really what other positions at depth. I don't know what we do with Kevin Boss. It's kind of tough to do right now.
Exactly.
Without knowing what kind of coaches we have, what kind of philosophy, if they're an offensive head coach, defensive head coach, what the GM's like, what his past history has been with other teams and other jobs he's had, what our personnel is going to be. Is Kevin Boss coming back? Is Peyton Hill is coming back?
Quinn, Castle,
how do these guys develop through the last 4 games? And Nico Thorpe, Javier Arenas, Jaleel Brown, what do they do in the offseason? Are they getting better? Heading into training camp, do we think they can be guys? I mean, there's so many questions right now. It's hard to really break down this draft and pinpoint accurately what we're going to do. We can just give you ideas, assumptions, and kind of go with our kind of football smarts right now, but even then it's kind of hard to tell because we just don't know all the situations that are going to work themselves out.
And we're going to be following the situation very closely going forward, guys. We're going to have all that info for you coming up. Talking each game, don't worry about that. We're going to be here for you. And as those things become more clear to us, we're going to be there for you as we always are. Guys, be sure to keep hitting us up on Facebook, on Twitter, on our website. Just Google us. You'll find us pretty easily. And that's
definitely
the good news.
The Outsiders Podcast. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We've got our own website. We've got our own message board. We are everywhere. You want us, you got us. You can find us all over.
We're gonna see you following the Cleveland game for some post game. And thanks for joining us today, guys. Have a good one. Have a good NFL weekend. We're gonna try to do the same. Out.
Also, shout out, much prayers, Cassandra Perkins. Their family and friends, Javon Belcher, family and friends, everyone who knew them, and little baby Zoe, who's without her parents right now.